So we have some relatively breaking news to share in today's update, which is really about the fact that the fourth stimulus inflation bill that we have been talking about has now officially been approved inside of the House. So having now officially been approved inside of the Senate, approved inside of the House, the really big breaking news is that it officially means that it is now approved in its entirety inside of Congress, which basically leaves one final step to get approved in its entirety, and that is going to be on President Joe Biden's desk. And the even more breaking news is that if you are watching this on release date, that bill right now on release date, if you're watching this on release date, is currently sitting inside of President Joe Biden's desk, prepared to be signed any moment now. Now, even if you are watching this into the future, the big thing is that in today's update, what I really want to talk about is that now that we are basically on the verge of having this bill officially signed in its entirety, I really just want to talk about what we should potentially now expect next, what the calendar pretty much looks like, maybe a little bit of a background story if you're just interested in knowing, what's been going on in that particular world. And then maybe just talking, as always, a little bit about what this means for things like fourth stimulus social programs, or simply put as just programs meant to put money in our pockets. And also a little bit of the inflation situation in our country, because this is definitely something that's going to influence a lot of our lives when we go out there to shop, to buy things, businesses, stores, jobs, employment. Everything in that world is going to be impacted. So that's what we're going to cover. So as always, we are going to get started, but real fast, before we begin, as always, remember to smash the like button if you guys hopefully enjoy videos like this. Of course, you guys can always decide, but it is always greatly appreciated. Consider subscribing and hitting the bell if you guys are interested in getting more updates as we get more information. And also, not just about stimulus, but even just about just finance, economic news, government, anything in that particular world. And of course, as always, feel free to comment any questions, particular thoughts, maybe about what you think about this particular bill, because there are a lot of mixed opinions. Some that support it, some that are hesitant, and some that are a little bit indifferent. So it's really great to hear from you guys. So with that being said, let's get this video started. So maybe to start by giving a little bit of a background story so everyone's kind of up to date about what happened, is that over the last recent weekend, the House essentially got together, they tried to sit down, they talked about the bill. The big reason why is that they just really wanted to make sure every single politician inside at least has the general idea, if not the even more specific detailed idea about what's actually physically inside this bill, so they know what they're expecting to potentially vote on, and also if there's any potential amendments or really just anything that they really want to talk about. But the really big breaking news, and again I say breaking because like at the end of the day, I know that there are some people that really love this bill and some people that are actually a little bit hesitant. But regardless about it, the major news is that over this weekend, it was now approved inside of Congress in its entirety, and specifically within the House at a vote of about 220 to 207, with all Democrats voting in support of it and every single Republican voting against it. Again, objectively speaking, not necessarily putting it politically, but it's just physically what ended up happening. Now, what's going on right now is that this particular bill is currently sitting inside of President Joe Biden's desk if you're watching this on release date. And what's going on is that there's a ceremony that's happening right now, and probably a live video. If you're interested in kind of, watching it on YouTube in the news, there's probably a live video out there where it's going to show him physically sitting down, attempting or signing it any minute now, or any part of today, or possibly even already signed if you're watching this in the future. This particular bill is currently going to be priced now officially at about $750 billion, which basically consists of a lot of different programs that we talked about like in a previous video. We'll probably make an updated video, so definitely stay tuned. Maybe consider subscribing if you guys are interested for that. And huge thanks, of course, if you guys have been here. But the big idea is that this bill really just encompasses a lot of ideas about things such as like climate change, healthcare, the IRS, the tax situation, just everything in that world inside of our country. Now, in terms of what's actually going to physically be happening once he officially signs it, with the assumption, again, everything goes smoothly because we don't know what the future is, but that's the foresight right now, is that once he officially approves of this bill, over the next couple of weeks, he's going to be setting a lot of different meetings that are going to be happening with his particular committee in Congress, and also specific groups of people, you know, in our government offices that are involved, in order to try to actually physically start to implement a lot of these policies, because there is so much involved, and also because a huge part of this, again, is about giving money to the IRS. But even once the IRS receives this money, they also have to figure out how to actually physically or how to actually spend it. Again, they have plans of how they want to spend it, but the actual execution of being able to spend it, this is the stuff that they're really going to be talking about and working on over the next couple of weeks. It is, however, admittedly, that it's expected that over the immediate 1 to 2 weeks, you know, for now, it might be relatively a little bit quiet. But the real reason why is that because Congress right now that they've officially done, you know, all the approval process, they're actually on vacation right now. And so because of that reason, they're really not expected to return until Labor Day weekend, specifically the day after Labor Day weekend ends. I believe that the specific date, what this really means is that he's going to be holding another event and get together with the entire, you know, Congress and, you know, the president office and the Congress and all the people there. He's going to be holding another final ceremony, really just to kind of celebrate this achievement of having this bill finally approved on September 6th of 2022, because that is, again, the date when they come back from Labor Day vacation, which is wild because we're still about like 2 to 3 weeks from Labor Day, yet they're already starting to celebrate. But again, if you guys have been here for a while, you probably know that this is kind of just the nature of Congress. You know, when other people get 3 days off, they get 1 week to even a month off sometimes. Now, what exactly does this mean when it comes to things such as like fourth stimulus checks, child tax, social security, everything in that world in terms of just programs that are actually meant to physically put money in our pockets directly, is really about the fact that right now, sadly, because fourth stimulus checks were not included inside of this package, the belief right now is that there is such a mixed controversial opinion about general fourth stimulus checks in the country that it is not looking probable, sadly, that they're going to be doing any more federal fourth stimulus checks. However, with that being said, like most of us, you know, we've kind of mentioned in a past video is that it is very possible and already happening that there are many states that are trying to come out with their own individual fourth stimulus checks that we are starting to see, for example, like in Maine, definitely in California, and many other, you know, states that are out there. However, maybe the new information is that while this is particularly happening true, one thing that is actually still very reasonable to happen, maybe not necessarily in the immediate future, again, because they're on vacation, but certainly after when they come back. So again, we're talking about like just, you know, in about 2 to 3 weeks, is the fact that there are actually still a lot of politicians, interestingly enough, that are really still trying to preach for other kinds of social programs, for maybe not necessarily like fourth stimulus general checks, but certainly things such as like child tax credit, social security. I know that, you know, in the last video we did talk about how Bernie Sanders is currently still trying to preach for extending child tax credit. He already wanted it to be inside of this bill, but obviously it never made it in this bill. He still kind of voiced about it anyway. I think it's very fair to say is that what really ended up happening, like we mentioned in the last video, definitely recommend checking out, it'll be at the end screen on the bottom, is that he ended up approving this bill largely because at the end of the day, he really just wanted more programs to be inside, but he figured that because he's not necessarily against the stuff in this bill, if anything, he actually supports it, he just wants more, but he figured for the time being, after so many months of negotiations, he'll just go through with it and approve. This story is actually also happening as well for other kinds of programs like social security raises, social security boosts, all of these programs. These are still things that are still relatively on the table. Obviously not inside of this particular bill, but potentially to be brought back again maybe in another future bill. But of course, After this though, they do have to try to focus a lot on the elections, because the results of the midterm elections that they are now moving on to focus on as well is going to have a massive influence to how much power they have to do other programs. But at least they finally accomplished something that they really wanted to do by approving of this bill that we've basically been finally following and talking all about over the last who knows how many weeks or months even. But of course, beyond this is that at the end of the day, at the very, very core, all of this stuff also ties into, as the name of the bill suggests, inflation. Because they also have to see what the inflation situation is going to look like over the next couple of weeks and months, and whether or not this bill actually directly impacts it, solves it, or how it actually influences everything in that world in general. But of course, all of this stuff, we really just have to find out in one of the next future episodes of this show, or even just the episodes of the news, because that's what's literally where the information is going to be released. But of course, beyond this is that that's probably the really big breaking news I really wanted to share in today's update. So if you guys, as always, found that relatively insightful and haven't done so, remember to smash the like button. If you guys hopefully enjoyed this, consider subscribing and hitting the bell. And as always, feel free to comment maybe any questions, personal thoughts about what you think about this bill. So as always, if you guys made it to this end, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, stay safe, stay well, and hope to see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.